Oh man, I absolutely love this instrument. So this is the new LCO textures from Spitfire. Another Evo grid, very, very different kind of approach, because there's just so much reverb in this one compared to the other ones. I did a video a while ago on the Oliver Arnold's one, which is gorgeous, and it's got reverb as well, but this one is just, they've just gone to a whole nother level by going into an aircraft hangar. Anyway, I'm sure you've watched the tutorials or the videos that they've done on it already, and you're just kind of watching some more. But I thought I'd do a quick video, which is starting to become a theme on the channel, which is basically a run through my overview of it, and then, as you can see in the background here, a kind of demo, kind of exploring the sound in more depth for me personally. But just absolutely love it, absolutely love it. So I'll try and go through as much of the grid as is kind of like reasonable for a short YouTube video, and I'll go through some of the created presets and the individual textures as well, which is basically what you see on the grid, but in non-grid format. So this whole first section here, the kind of orange one here, we have kind of voice built into the whole kind of ensemble. And you can hear that in the opening that I just gave you there, which is kind of a mixture of voices and other instruments. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Eric Whitacre textures, because they also built in kind of grid-like kind of functionality into the Eric Whitacre instrument. So on the next one here, lots of woodwind and some glass as well. I think I saw in one of their videos they had this nice kind of setup of like wine glasses. I assume it wasn't for drinking. Gorgeous sounds in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do randomize. If you're not sure about Evo grids with Spitfire, they've got this really nice feature up the top here, and you can randomize with any, which gives you basically, well, it's giving me quite a lot of blue, but it's giving me a number of other ones in there. But you can randomize within one of them. So the first one we had was ethereal, right? The next one we're in at the moment is mercurial. Posh names going on here, guys. So it's not totally easy, this instrument. It's not like background washy, which Olafur's stuff, actually no, that's a lie as well. There are some kind of biting, edgy stuff in Olafur's as well. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is when I get one of these instruments, there's this part of me that just thinks it's all going to be, you know, really easy, just going to sit in the mix and just be kind of like washy, but it's totally not. There's some really, really interesting stuff in here. You can get the washy sound. What I tend to do with that sort of thing, if you want, you'll see it if I break it down enough inside of this composition here, but one of the things I like doing is taking these sounds, so really quite edgy, and then just taking a bit off with EQ, and then using my own reverb, right? So if we it's just a little bit more manageable to the ears to have something like that going on, depending on what you're doing. Because one of the pieces of advice I got from someone, I can't remember who it was, but I try and think about it now all the time, is when you get instruments like Spitfire, Omnisphere, things like that, that are really good, they are meant to be good out of the box. You hear them and it's kind of like, whoa, wow, I'm pressing one button, I'm a composer, this is really cool. But the problem with that is very often fitting that inside of your mix. So sometimes it needs a bit of adaptation. Whilst the guys have done always an amazing job, that's why Spitfire are so successful, on just recording something that fits so well in the mix because it's recorded in an amazing space, you do need to do some work, I think. Anyway, so I'm rambling. Let's move on to Quantum here. So it sounds like this is the one that brings in piano to it as well. I'm sorry I haven't got prepared and looked at all of these, exactly what's going on in them in the documentation, but I thought I'd just play through it really. I mean, that's the thing, that the way that they design this instrument is it's not meant to really remind you too much of anything. It's meant to feel like this strange world of organic textures, really. So whatever you hear in it is probably more relevant for you. So let's just listen to one of the ones on their own. And of course, if you're not happy with the amount of reverb, you can of course increase the reverb and make it ridiculous. Which is of course too much, so I'm just going to reset that. So let's move on now to Astral. Gorgeous stuff. Slightly subtler, that one. Might need to pump up the volume on this. This is significantly quieter than the other one. And let's try out some of the other mixes as well. So when you change the mix there, so what I brought in is obviously the close mics there, you can start to get a little bit more of a sense of the actual sound that's in there, you know. Definitely strings, obviously. I can't work out what that is in the background there. Maybe it's just the resonance of the strings playing off the room, I'm not sure. Let's listen to that with these mics. Oh, it's so much better, right? So much better without the close-up. Or not just the close-up. One of the things I tried the other day, actually, which I want to share with you guys, is if you don't know it already, there's a great plugin called Valhalla Shimmer, which is great. It's super fun. I mean, you just play anything and it sounds like some amazing film score. Makes it really, really cool because you just got insane amount of size in this. So if we were to put that on the orchestral grand, if I play that without it, it's like meh, and then you put it on and it... Huge, huge space. If we change this mode to dark, I prefer this one. Massive space, which is great. It's not so good on the orchestral grand, but you get the idea. So anyway, my point was, if you add in Valhalla Shimmer as well, it just is ridiculous. Just love this sound. It's great. Oh, amazing. Anyway, so I'm going to whiz through the last part of this because I'm taking way too much time and I want to give you the demo as well. Just have a few previews of some of their curated presets. So one of Paul's favorite ones, he says in the video, is Frozen Light. Let's see what he's on about. I often find myself bumping up the volume a little bit. The microtonal stuff, I absolutely love microtonal stuff. Really, really subtle microtonal differences inside of your mixes and whatever you're putting together often give... It's another way of adding like air, light, and texture into something. When you get out of the box virtual instruments, one of the things that when you're composing and producing with them is that you end up with this sound which is kind of like really vanilla and really not real. And so your main goal is obviously to start with great instruments like from Spitfire and like from, you know, Spectrasonics or whoever else you buy from. And then just find ways to extrapolate or pull them apart a little bit and do interesting stuff about with it. Christian Henson talks about this a lot in his videos, and you'll hear that the piano that I used from Spitfire's got that going on in the background right at the beginning of this piece. Sorry, I say from Spitfire, I meant from Spectrasonics. Really interesting sound, really interesting sound. You can hear the kind of the tones mashing with each other. And actually, sorry, I haven't gone up high enough. Actually, that doesn't sound like it goes too high. Let's try the last one, Space Forest. I sort of feel like I could just put one of these on in the background and just like chill out for a couple of hours. It's super nice. Anyway, listen, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of what's going on inside of that. I'm just going to run through my demo now so you can have a listen, and then I'll try and pick apart some bits and talk about kind of why I use the sounds that I did. Anyway, I'm going to pull it out there just because it kind of does a similar thing to what it did in the opening. So hopefully you dig. It's just a kind of short thing really. It's not well structured necessarily as a composition, but I wanted to showcase a little bit about what you can use LCO textures for. And it's not just for, you saw me in the demo there just holding nice chords and going, ah, that's lovely. It's not just for that. You can actually do some really interesting other things. And one of the things I found when I was messing around with it, I was trying to remember whilst I started this video here exactly what the one was. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. But there was a really nice one. I think it was one of the Curated presets, which ended up sounding a little bit like, and reminding me of Interstellar. You know how the organ is used so much in that, with like huge back of the room kind of sounding mixes, so in a big cathedral. I found this one and I bounced it in place, so I won't be able to find the, it's very stupid, won't be able to find the exact one again, but that's actually LCO textures right there. It sounds like I've done something with the piano. And I was just doing this kind of little figure just moving over and over again, and then just basically loop that, you see. But I just love that. There's a really nice sound, and you can play around with the variation slider, this one here, on your different patches, which gets, depending on which patch it is, a different response when you first start playing it, and that's what I did on that one. So found a much quicker sort of attack and played around with that. So that features quite heavily in this piece. You hear obviously I've put the piano in, I'll just mute that at the moment. We start with this kind of, and I'll turn off the background noise as well. That was just just outside I recorded as well. Often good to get sound in your mixes, like just outside noise, room noise, that sort of thing. That's one of the things, you have to always play MIDI from right at the beginning. So obviously I'm taking out the other Spitfire stuff, which is the kind of real orchestra, and take these guys out as well. You hear how all of that's playing together. So if I unmute everything actually, and I just solo this one, this is the sound that I've got going on in LCO textures. One of the Mercurial ones, I believe. That's the right name, I always forget. Yeah, Mercurial. And you can hear that you've got this kind of like zither, or I forget what it's called, dulcimer sound in the background. I don't know what that is. Just giving it a little bit of shimmer, which is really nice. And then with that as well. And then this last little texture I thought I'd bring in just very briefly there. You can hear that that's got a bit of the sound of the bounced in place one that I had in there, that kind of percussive, slightly percussive. You can get those sounds, so do try and find those in there. So then, obviously, once that's playing, we bring in the Spitfire string library a little bit. Anyway, so I won't dwell on that too much. The next bit, where it just opens up into this big open moment here, is kind of, I had in my mind this standard like natural history unit kind of score, where it just, you know, you go over a the camera pans over a mountain, you go, way, see the landscape. Anyway, what we've got going on in there is more of a melodic component for LCO textures rather than the background side of things. So still playing that mercurial texture, but using the wind element inside of it to kind of just give you this really reverberated melody line, which is playing over the top. And then we get this other LCO textures in the middle. Oh, this is the different one. So no, actually, the way that I did this one is that in terms of the texture in the background, what we've got is, let me just zoom in a bit here, is my kind of long blend, which is a mixture of Olaf Arnold's symphonic strings and Spitfire quartet as well. And that's a really nice sound, actually. I like this one. Let's see if I can bring my... basically, yeah, that one's going on in the background. Just providing the harmonic content, and then you've got this line over the top. And then I found this other sound inside of LCO textures, which is just kind of a drop. It's just a really nice, just a really, really nice sort of kind of percussive thing. Don't know quite what's going on in that texture. And altogether, that gives you, if I just play this component here with the long blend, this could go down a little bit actually. There's just always stuff going on the sides of the mix, or the sides of the texture, and that's what's really important for me when I'm like composing something, is that you don't just put something down and it's like dead perfect string sound. It's like, oh, there is some real juice going on in there, some real life. So anyway, just for the last part of the video, I'll let this play out again if you want to listen to it again, but otherwise, I hope this has been useful to you, and that you buy this instrument because it's really, really useful. You can get the sound out of previous Evos as well, but and you can do some mangling as well. I might do a video about that in future. Yeah, and the other thing as well, if you don't get this library, it might be worth playing around with using Valhalla Shimmer, that reverb that I showed you earlier on in the video. I don't know whether, yeah, here we go, this one here. Absolutely brilliant reverb, which does mimic the thing that goes on in LCO textures, which is this huge, like 10-second reverb tail, and you can do even longer than that in Valhalla. So if you're not wanting to fork out the money, it might be worth going for this. Anyway, see you next time.